All right, we're good.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to this month's Flight School Connector. It's June of 2022, and today's topic is the Good Vibration Incorporation, building a positive team atmosphere for your staff. So, of course, I'm Chris Moser, your host, and I work here at AOPA, helping flight schools and CFIs, just like you guys. And then we've also got, of course, always with me, Stephen Schroeder. Say hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
You get to see him on this show. We keep him hidden on our other one. Anyway, he helps us out on the flight training initiative here with me. And our special guest today is Danielle Robinson, right here from AOPA. Danielle, just tell us a little bit about yourself really quick.
Hey everybody. Yes, this is Danielle. I am the HR manager here at AOPA, and so I handle a host of things. I like to say I'm the Jill of all trades, so I'm super
Mhm.
excited to share with you all the knowledge that I have.
Awesome. And we really appreciate you being here, Danielle. So let's go ahead just to take care of a couple of housekeeping items first, and then we will get started with our presentation. So first, we want to thank Sporty's Pilot Shop for sponsoring our program. If your school has any interest in maybe starting up a pilot shop within it, something along those lines, or need pilot supplies to give to your students, they've got a dealer program. You can check it out at sportys.com/dealer, and it includes discounts on shipping or same-day shipping and all the materials you might need to get it going. I think there's even wholesale pricing is what it was. Yep. All right. So today, what we're going to cover,
Oh,
we're going to talk about again this idea of how you can build the teamwork atmosphere, build the culture
yep.
at your school,
Go
and
ahead.
we're going to focus mainly on trying to help your staff. Steven, do you have something?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen.
Oh, well, how about that? Thanks, guys. Here I am just showing stuff. Give me one moment
We
here.
want to see what you're seeing. Come on.
I know what the heck. All right, I want to show that one. Okay. Do you see it now,
Yeah,
Steven?
there we
Thank
go.
you for that call out.
Because we
Let me
have to
go
get the
back
spot.
really quick.
We have to get the sponsor plug, of course.
Exactly. Let me go back
We
really
want-
quick. There is that Sporty's Pilot Shop Dealers Program. And so again, check it out, sporties.com/dealer. So today's agenda, what we're going to talk about is uh, basically helping build that culture at your school. And so we've got three main kind of categories that we'll discuss, especially with Danielle's expertise here: sharing the big picture, showing appreciation for your staff, and motivating your staff. And we're going to talk both about people that are there potentially for the long term and even your short term type employees, which of course we know that typically at flight schools, those are your CFIs. But before we get started, let's have you guys take kind of an ad hoc poll here. If you would in the chat, and you'll see in the chat, there's a little bubble on your screen it says chat on it. Just click in there. Tell us how would you rate your school's current work culture? Is it a finely tuned machine? B, is it smooth running, but maybe you could use some tweaks to always get some improvement? C, would definitely like to make some changes. Or D, man, turn it off, turn it back on. We need a total reboot. So tell us what you think. Just go ahead and throw that just a letter in the chat there, and we'll take an informal poll and see what you guys think. And as we can see in there, I'm getting a number of B's. I got one C, and we'll just give you another moment to throw that in the chat just to give us an idea. So definitely got some people thinking maybe some tweaks always can use some improvement. And then for other folks, even that part of definitely like to make some changes if possible.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next slide. So we've got the big picture we want to talk about here. So it's company's values and mission. And so Danielle, I know that when we were discussing this, one of the things that you said was it is really key to help the staff see that. So can you tell us a little bit more about your suggestions on helping the staff see that big picture and the value in that?
Sure, sure. So the big picture. So that's of course your company values, your missions, and even your goals, right? And in order for individuals to really start to embody those and really take those on, you just want to first start by simply making it visible, and visual by uh, I know that at a previous employer, what we did, we actually printed the the values and we printed, our mission statement and different things like that. We framed them and actually put them in different places throughout the office. So we had them in the break room and we had them, within the different hallways and different things like that. And you may say, well, what does that do? Well, you'd be surprised how many people would actually stop and take a second to take a look at it and really begin to embrace that culture, really begin to understand the mission. Because if they don't have it in front of them often, sometimes it goes into the back of your mind because you start to, get kicking into high gear and you're always working and you start to find yourself maybe disconnected from that mission or disconnected from those company values. So making it more visual and visible will really help as a first step, a simple first step really, to help them understand the bigger picture.
Great. And in fact, when you say to make the visual, it could just be literally just posters with it printed on it, or other maybe more creative ways too.
Yes, yes, definitely. The simple one would definitely be to print. The more I would say intricate or something a little bit more a step above that would maybe be, anytime you all have an all hands meeting, or something where you have everyone gathered together. If you wanted to always kick off your meetings with, hey, this is what we do. Customer service is who we are. We embody these things, and here's how we're going to get there, and listing all of those values. So again, every opportunity that you can, help them understand the mission.
Big thing, of course. And in fact, I just wanted to show here really quick if I can get that in my camera. This is one that I know that Katie Pribble, who was the kind of the founder of You Can Fly, led that. She did this. So we had a picture of the team taken back then, and then had the mission literally printed on it. We all had it in our offices. So a good example. And so it's like in those, I know for me personally, in those days where sometimes we're staring at spreadsheets, as we often will tease and things like that, it's like I'll look up and I'll remember, like, yeah, this is what we're here for. We're here, and in fact, ours was to empower, power everybody, people to make life-changing, opportunities basically through aviation. So definitely do that, and that can help remind you when you're in that sort of the nitty gritty stuff that there's a reason that I'm here. There's a reason I'm doing this, and that we want to try to remember that as we go. And then you mentioned too that it's kind of important. Well, I know that we're going to talk in detail, sort of steering your staff towards it, as you mentioned, through using awards and recognition. I know we're going to talk in detail about what some of those awards could look like, but did you want to mention at all, like how you can use that to steer people to get them to sort of follow through on the mission?
Yes, well, rewards is definitely a great way to go when you're wanting to reinforce any type of behavior or any thoughts or anything like that, allowing them to see that there is, something at the end of the road if you continue on this path, whatever that award or that recognition may look like. And I know that we'll go into more detail shortly about, just the different spectrum. Uh, Depending on your budget, it can be super big, it can be super small. But yes, absolutely, giving them a positive reinforcement. That's what I like to call it, positive reinforcement for those goals and missions.
So obviously, and of course, one thing we were remiss in saying too is if you don't have a mission statement and haven't figured that out, that would be an exercise you would want to go through and use your staff to help you do that. And we can do a session on that at another time, or you can find things online as well about how to get that mission statement. But obviously, we're talking about make it so it's clear, people can see it, steer them towards it. The last bit here, though, is really this was something that I know that we talked a good bit about, Danielle, which is this idea of helping your staff embody that mission. So what are some of the ways that folks here consider, these owners, managers could consider sort of getting their staff to really like take this on as their own personal mission?
Well, definitely. I know one of the things that we talked about in depth was training and development. So giving them those opportunities to train towards that mission. So I know earlier I mentioned maybe customer service is at the core of everything that you do. Well, maybe offering some, standard customer service as soon as that person comes on board as just a part of a way to help them embody that, whatever that is, you can have them train towards that. And I see, as we listed here, Chick-fil-A or Disney. When you think of Chick-fil-A, it's always that standard. My pleasure. Thanks for coming. It's always that standard because they have proper training and they know that this is a part of our culture. This is who we are. And so having those same qualities, whether you're in a flight school or you are at a fast food place, is having those same qualities where across the board, here's who we are, and we're going to continue to train and develop you until we, get to those points. And also, as we've listed, leading by example, I think that's always a great way to go. People will definitely take note of their leadership, especially for those that may be a little bit more visible. If you're in the office, being able to lead by walking around, being able to make those connections, and again, connecting them back to the mission. A lot of times, just simple check-ins by walking around will really help steer your culture.
Great, thanks. And of course, now I just want to reiterate, I think that's such an amazing point, the 2 points. Number one, for me, coming from a teacher, and I know all of you as instructors as well, if you want somebody to do something, you got to teach them how to do it. We can't just expect it, especially, I know that it seems like often at flight schools, we'll see people that are probably just coming out of college or maybe college age oftentimes, and they don't always know. They haven't been taught that. I know that I learned those things on the job as well. So if you have something you want them to do, you got to specifically train them to do that. And then that lead by example thing. I know that we are lucky here at AOPA. I've seen our leadership when we've done fly-ins in the past, and they will go out, all of our leadership team will go out and they will be picking up trash and doing the cleanup at the end. So that really makes it that makes a big impression on us, knowing that they're going to do it too. It's not just like they're telling us, go clean up all this stuff, clean up all the mess, but they're willing to do it and get dirty with us. And that does a lot to inspire us to go forward. Okay, so let's jump to the next one. So that's obviously this idea of getting that big picture and embodying it yourself. The next point we were getting at was getting into the appreciation. I know we've got several aspects of this. So the first one, of course, people are always like, oh, showing appreciation, my gosh, it's just going to cost me money. And I'm just barely, getting by, or I'm already on thin margins as it is, or whatever it might be. But Danielle, you had some really good ideas on how you can do meaningful appreciation on the budget. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yes. All right. So the first and one of the most easiest is probably that peer-to-peer recognition. And sometimes this can happen in your stand-up meetings or whatever weekly touchdown meetings that you may have, just giving an opportunity for individuals to recognize one another. Anything anyone wants to share, any new accomplishments for the week, how did your, colleague help during the week, just whatever it is, to give them that space and opportunity to recognize each other. I've also listed here the thank you wall, and so this is literally nothing special. This is post-it notes. Okay, it could literally be post-it notes where they can simply just write a kind note. Hey, I don't know, thanks for fueling the plane yesterday, and we have this huge wall of thank yous, of those little things, just to show someone that, hey, I appreciate you going the extra mile. And it can also be, affirmations. Maybe it's, shine bright. It can be fly high. It could, all of these things. So every time they walk into the flight school or go into, maybe it's the lunchroom or wherever, you may place this, they can have that reminder, like, we rock. We're kicking butt. And aside from that, the staff-wide emails, that's another good one. This is especially good when it comes from either the leadership or maybe their direct supervisor, and just sending it out as a staff-wide, a simple thank you. It can be 1 to 2 lines. It can be as much or as little, but something to let them know, hey, I see you, I recognize you, and we wanted to say thank you.
And in fact, there was one example I know that we saw here. It was, again, early on at You Can Fly, kind of going along with that picture that I showed you. We had a thing called tank yous, and it was where they had made up kind of this poster board sort of thing, and it was a fuel tank. And as we would do things, we would put drops in the fuel tank, and then as it got full to to the full level, then we would have some special reward as a team. And it was nothing crazy. It was sort of like, we're going to have free donuts or some kind of, maybe we'll get lunch or something like that based on that. So you can definitely do things to help encourage people to do that. I know we've even got that in a program that HR actually here at AOPA has been using to encourage people just to send thank yous. And admittedly, it feels good and it's kind of fun sending them. So that's that part. I'm assuming that gets into this idea of recognition and emotional buy-in. It's like, can you tell us a little bit more about what you were describing there?
Yes. So in order, for folks to reach their highest potential, they want to feel appreciated. This is a pretty known fact. They want to feel appreciated. And so, being recognized for a job well done helps me to push a little further. It can actually increase your productivity. If I feel that I'm not making a difference, if I feel that you never notice the little things, and I'm not saying, just every day there should be thank you notes everywhere, but when you see this person go on the extra mile, they've really knocked it out of the park. Taking a moment to recognize that will actually help them say, well, hey, I can also do this or I can do that. Or 9 times out of 10, that learned behavior, whatever it was that they've done, they're going to figure out other ways to continue down that path. So, again, it is absolutely an emotional buy in for them to feel more connected by saying, hey, you recognized me, and I'm looking forward to the next time that I can be recognized.
I would even say, this reminds me too of, it's like you often hear about the different personality types, and you'll hear the type of person that's kind of a cheerleader. And as a manager, sometimes I know for me, it's like that may not necessarily be my normal inclination to do that, but I can see how that's important just from other people that I've worked for, having someone that will point out things and say, hey, thanks for doing that. And it might just be simple things, but then that provides that positive reinforcement, as you mentioned earlier, Danielle, to really make me gonna go, oh, well, wow, I didn't think about that. And it's that recognition that is, even as adults, that we kind of appreciate from those we're working with and for. And so I think that I totally agree. I think that that can be something, but it's something that you've got to work at, if that's, especially if that's not your necessarily, if you tend to be the kind of person where it's just like, well, you're doing what you're supposed to do. That's your job. Great. And you don't say anything and only get on their case when they're not doing what you want. Flipping it to that positive side, just like we know as students, makes a big difference in helping to motivate them, which I know we'll get to in a little bit. But let's say that, is it worthwhile maybe bumping the appreciation up, maybe putting some in the budget, because obviously those things are things that don't cost a whole lot, mainly just effort and paying attention. But is it worthwhile to maybe put some money into the budget for this? What do you think, Danielle?
I would say absolutely, absolutely. And, sometimes it's, maybe there's a standard goal that everyone in the flight school or wherever can work towards to reach some of these other goals that may actually cost a little bit more. But I dare to say that it would definitely help to increase the culture and increase the productivity.
And so I know you've got some examples here too of some of the ones that drive, and I know there's been research too, based on, like if you're Gen Z like me dating myself, or not Gen Z, what am I? Gen X. Gen X like me dating myself. I wish I was Gen Z, I guess. And then versus millennials, there's some different ways of doing this. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the areas you were mentioning there?
Yes, absolutely. So I believe they found for the millennials and the groups thereafter, their time is probably the most valuable to them. They want to travel, they want to go places. So a paid day off is probably going to be like golden to them, because they're like, cool. I can start my weekend early, even if it's a half day. I see we put, it can definitely be an afternoon, it can be lunch, off or whatever the case may be. And then you have your gift cards. I like to call those spot awards. Those are a little bit more immediate. Maybe it's a small, I don't know, it could be $10. Again, we can still think budget, but it can be for lunch. Here's a Chick-fil-A card, since we mentioned Chick-fil-A earlier. Here's a Chick-fil-A lunch card. Thank you for a job well done. It can definitely be to their favorite place, restaurant, or whatever the case may be. I can just use myself as an example. I, helped my boss with something, and the next day I came in and she had a little teeny thank you note on my desk with the Dunkin' Donuts card in it. And I'm like, yes, like I've got coffee. This is awesome. And, it probably literally cost her $10. It was like a $10 card. So it doesn't have to cost you much. But I was elated, and I recognized that, okay, she's seen, she recognized how I handled this situation. Awesome. So yes, gift cards is definitely a good way to go. And then quarterly luncheons. If you just kind of want to create a standard cadence, a standard time where, what, I want to get everybody together and I want to show them that I appreciate them all at once. You can definitely try the luncheon. I know at one of a previous organization, we did quarterly staff luncheons. And during that luncheon, we also had the peer-to-peer recognition. We made sure that they ate good. And it was just an opportunity to continue to build that rapport and to build, that trust and to have those teams really kind of gel well together. And then also raffle entries is a good way to go. So that way there can be ticketed or, however you like to go about that, establishing the base of it. But the point is at the end of it, someone will win. And this one might be the big grand prize of whatever it could be, based on budget.
And I know that the key for that one too, and in fact, of any of these, you can definitely tie them towards this idea of performance criteria. So if you've got something on your mission, whether it's customer service or, maybe it's sales or whatever it is that you're really striving to have your staff do, you can tie these things or some of them to that kind of criteria and then award them that way. But at the same time, it keeps it on a budget, right? So not like you're giving out, here's $50 and here's $50. That can get really expensive. But by giving them this idea of tickets going in, drive them towards that behavior, and then you just get more entries based on what you're doing. I think that's kind of the idea, and I think that's a good one. And then we've got the idea too. So this is obviously we were kind of focusing on the difference between individual. So there's recognition and incentives for individuals, but then you mentioned too the idea of also just showing general appreciation for the whole company, or maybe reaching company goals, and building culture there. So can you tell us some of your ideas here as well? And of course, these can blend and overlap, but
Absolutely. So food, again, food food is going to be the key. No, but really having those company-wide appreciation days, whether it's just a cookout. I know the weather is changing, and I know that with COVID and different things in place, having a potluck might not be the best way to go. But getting, catered food and having everyone come outside and have a field day or a grub day or just an opportunity to again get outside of the office and build is always a good way to go. You can have that family fun day or even a holiday party. And, it can be a winter party. I know that, we do want to be mindful of where people are, in different places as far as diversity and equity and inclusion, of course. But it can be something just to acknowledge the new year, whatever it is, getting everyone together. I can't stress enough. It helps. And I know that we're all going through or have went through maybe the COVID fatigue or just all of the things. So taking a moment to appreciate everyone all at once is really another good strategy as far as building your culture.
And so obviously I feel like that one goes along the lines of you've got the individual recognition that you're giving, but then you may have some people that may not always get that individual recognition. But by doing this, the company's reached a certain goal, a certain milestone. Now you can recognize everybody for that and put some money into it. And I think that's sounds like a pretty good idea to help do that. So we've talked a lot about the appreciation part, which is key, right? This seems to be that one of the key themes here again is make sure you show your, like in a tangible way, this appreciation. But let's get into maybe motivating the staff too, because we want them, like could be one form of motivation, but can you tell us a little bit more about inspiring your team? Like what are some things that a manager owner can do to help get the team drive towards those goals other than just offering, effectively incentives?
Absolutely. So, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, leading by walking around. So, again, being visible and available is definitely going to help. I know that sometimes that's not always possible, but when possible, popping in, whenever you can into the office, walking around to the different desks, different things like that. It really does help to build the relationship. So that way, again, they will see the leader leading by example and they'll want to follow into those footsteps, whatever that may be. So, building relationships is definitely a very important step with building your culture.
And that can be as simple as, I know I've seen that here as well, but just as simple as walking around, just asking, like I've had some of my bosses that walk around to say, how was your weekend or what's going on? They just kind of check in with you, right? And it's just a couple of
Yeah.
minutes, but showing that personal. And there's probably tricks, and I know we didn't talk about it in this one, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head, probably tricks too. And there's ways you can try to remember, so like if you spoke to somebody last week and they came in and say, hey, by the way, how did that trip to wherever go? Or that is huge in helping build relationships, is really being present and taking that personal interest in that. Along with that, though, and of course, you mentioned too this. Can you expand a little bit more on this idea when we were prepping for this? You said you'll know what's really happening in the company. Like, what were you talking about there? Can you tell us a little more about that, Danielle?
Yes. So in the HR world, we call it water cooler talk. Those are the little conversations that happen when you're not around in different areas, and it happens in different pockets. And it's not always the bad conversations; it's the good things. But it does give you an opportunity to just kind of get a window in of how people are feeling, what people are thinking, and the things that they may not tell someone else. So again, as you're building those relationships, they may feel comfortable to share certain things with you as they continue to see you and continue to have those conversations. So when I say what's really happening, how they really feel and how others may feel. And they may not be able to tell you in a large setting. So I know one slide ago, we were like, oh, have a big event. Well, they probably won't say it at the luncheon and they probably won't say it at the team huddle. But when you're walking around and you may stop at the cube or the office, hey, how's your weekend? How's everything going? Oh, things are great. But, I don't know. It's this new curriculum that's coming up and I'm really not sure how I feel about, they will continue to kind of open up and then you'll kind of get a window in to how people are really feeling when they can't express themselves in those large settings.
Great, and obviously that's really important to have that aspect of how are things running and what can I do to improve them, or where can I catch things early and try to fix it, or deal with it before it becomes a problem, or to steer everybody in the right direction. Another one too that I thought was a really important one, and this kind of goes back to that, I know that picture that I showed as well, but is this idea of sharing stories about how your business or what you're doing. So can you tell us more about how we can also drive that larger picture that can inspire or motivate the team?
Absolutely. So it's about showing what they're doing to make this bigger picture happen. So maybe it's, showing or sharing the stories of a young person that may have finished flight school or have went on to, go to an airline. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but they went on to these bigger things. And then this, CFI or whomever can say, you know what, I was a part of that. I was a part of Julie's story. Julie is now, I don't know, she's the, airline, she's the she's the new pilot face for American Airlines or whatever the case may be. And I was a part of her story. So whenever you can highlight those things, whenever you can share those things, and maybe it's, having an alum, like an alumni link on your pages or whatever the case may be, so that they can come back and share. These are all of the great things that I learned from the flight school, and this is how I was able to apply it to my life. And being able to share that back with your organization can again drive them to hopefully work harder and understand that no, I'm not just taking them out for some flight training, but this is our future. This is a future pilot, and I am impacting them in a special way.
Exactly. So in following up with those folks, and in fact, and it's I think it's those stories too. Those are those little warm stories, those little touches that happen, and I mean everybody. It's why the news does it all the time, right? Those little nice stories. So doing that where you can show that you've had an effect here is important. In fact, Stephen, I want to put you on the spot to remind you. You spoke with your dad as part of the research, and just so you know, Stephen's father was a career-long Army officer, and you talked a little bit about. And we know that in the Army, the little difference was that clearly there they can just say you do it and you have to do it. It's a little different motivating because there's that aspect of the threat. But you did mention a little bit
Good
about the
point.
history, and I think that maybe that fits in here. Well, can you just describe real quickly about what your dad had said about that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. He had a
The pride
Latin
in the
term.
unit thing.
Yeah, he had a Latin term that he used for, and it translated kind of basically to the pride in the unit type of thing.
Was that the
Um,
esprit de corps maybe, or
I think it has spirit to core.
yeah,
Um, and I guess the idea he was getting at there was you finish up basic training, you get assigned to whatever you're going to be doing. If you're part of the 3rd Infantry Division or if 4th Rangers Company, whatever. But when you get there, yes, your assignment, you've got things you have to do, and you've got a whole command structure, but you're also part of a bigger history there. If this unit was created back in 1885, and they've always done, artillery throughout the years as it's changed with history and technology. And you're building that story forward as well to where that unit's going to go in the future and its involvement in that military branch. So there was always this kind of team effort of we're all pulling each other along to keep building the story towards where it's going to go. If it's the one I think about was his last assignment when we were overseas. He was part of the 3rd Infantry Division, which was called the Rock of the Marne. It was a group of folks who held position in France on the Marne River. and like
Cool, man.
held it for weeks at a time. So they've kind of built that reputation of being this, like, they hold their spot and always defend their fellows. And that's kind of like the tradition that they continue to build with when different assignments around the world.
So maybe one aspect there that could be applied to flight schools too is it's like, you've got a business and maybe you've been around for 10 years or maybe you're just getting started, but that idea of keeping some of that history so you can then build upon that. And that's that idea of building that culture out so you can show that, hey, you've come to this flight school and this is who we are and this is where we go and all that kind of stuff. That is important and that can help build this whole idea of mission and culture.
Yeah.
What about two? I know we're gonna do hit two parts here. We've got kind of general things for incentivizing the team, and these could obviously be good for I think any employee. And then I know in the next one we'll get to specifically what are some things we can do for more short-term employees, maybe people that we know are not going to be there for the long haul. But Danielle, can you tell us a little bit about some ideas of things that we can do to help motivate our staff to make them want to work towards our mission goals and the good of the business?
Absolutely. So, work-life balance, having that balance is so important. And I think we've all kind of realized that. I hate to bring up COVID again, but it really turned the tide. When we talk about culture, it has changed a lot. So, offering those opportunities for individuals to take care of things or whatever that work-life balance could look like, it does make a difference. Some people value, teleworking or that early in, early out because now I can get started on my weekend because I've come in at 6 a.m. and I'm ready to get out at 2 p.m. or whatever the case may be. It's really important. And sometimes even more important than offer them more money is what can we do to offer you that balance with your life and work. And then I see we also have here commission and PTO. So the commission, that's definitely something driven by performance. It's sometimes it's more of a numbers game. Maybe it's being able to complete 50 flights in a month or whatever the case may be. Each flight you are earning a bit towards this larger goal. So commission is definitely something that does help drive people to move when you want them to hit those numbers. And then the PTO, again, and I kind of already mentioned it a little bit in that work-life balance, but also offering that time off as something to incentivize your team. Hey, everybody, if we can hit this ROI number, next Friday we're closing we're closing everything early, or we're all going to just take off, or whatever that is. Maybe it's that between the Christmas and or the between the holidays, I'll say that just to be standard. Between those holidays, closing the office, those little things mean a lot. So wherever you're able to offer that time off, it's going to be a game changer, especially for those that need those moments to kind of decompress, especially when they're spending a lot more time at work than at home. And then investing in your team. And this is more so along the lines of beyond where they are now. So maybe it's, the tuition reimbursement, or maybe there's a specific certificate they can earn, something to advance their skills so that they will continue to feel like, okay, I'm growing. Okay, my boss appreciates what I'm doing here and they want to see me succeed. They want to see me do better. So I'm able to take on, these new instrument ratings or, again, all of those little things to help them towards their future.
So, and exactly, and that's that key of the, and in fact, I know we even mentioned, I believe this is the appropriate one, where we talked about it may just be goals that they have on their own. So it could be advancing in pilot ratings, or it could be maybe it's some of your office staff that want to do something else, get some other certification or training. They've got some career goal, and to help them, you meet these. But we said the key here, though, is to make this an incentive.
Hmm.
Was the idea of making sure that they know the difference between doing what would be expected of the job. Like this is your typical job duties versus going above and beyond, which are going to be driving you towards, maybe towards these incentives. Can you help clarify that for us a little bit?
Yes. So in order for individuals to know that they've gone beyond their scope of work, the incentives will kind of help them push more into whatever direction to kind of expand. So again, it's not necessarily just the the things that may be in their job description, but maybe it's the as other duties are assigned. Maybe it's those the initiative, right, to take it a step further. They have this project in front of them that they were a part of, but they ended up leading it, and they ended up getting everything done before the end of the deadline. Like, this is what I mean as far as incentivizing them to go beyond, because there's things in your job description that you just have to do. I need you here. I need you present. I need you to do these things. And then there's those things that may not necessarily be in your job description, but you're knocking it out of the park. And so sometimes we call that stretch goals, right? So I just kind of want you to go just a little bit beyond those things. I know that, 50 flights is what we have, but let's push it to 75. And when you get to that 75, I have a day off waiting for you. I have, this new skill set, this new development, this new training, just waiting for you as soon as you hit that mark. So again, it's not necessarily, praising the pawn for the things that they should do, but it's also incentivizing them to go beyond what they see and to continue to push them to grow.
So this could even be things like if you're a front desk staff, it's not just picking up the phone and answering it, but it's doing it in a way that they are being friendly and they're offering good service, and you see that. Or it could be
Yes.
for the CFI where it's like, oh yeah, we always take them on a tour, but they really do it and they follow up with the person, and they take that
Right.
initiative. So those are the kind of things you might lay out some examples, and also leave it open to other things where if I see something that really impresses me, you could also get it towards that. And then
Mhm.
the last one there too, I think is kind of key is if you're wondering what motivates your staff. I mean, I know Danielle and I, we'd kind of brainstorm some ideas, but you said ask your staff, like, what is it you'd like? What can I do for you that would motivate you?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually had my boss ask me that here. One of the first things that she asked me upon coming on board, she literally asked, what motivates you? Tell me, what are the things that mean the most to you? And I'm like, work-life balance, flexibility. I mean, I just started going up and, spot awards, but that's how she knew that, oh, Danielle likes to be recognized right at that moment, not like eons later, but she likes to know at that moment that she's appreciated or she's recognized. So that's why I appreciated it even more, because she listened and she understood that's how I like to be recognized. So just simply asking them so that you're not just like, oh, PTO for everybody, and everybody's like, well, I don't really care about PTO, but I do like this restaurant, or I do like this or that. So that's why asking them really does make a huge difference when coming up with the best strategy.
And I want to ask too real quick so it sounds like maybe what you're saying and is, do you potentially customize them based on your employees, right? You don't necessarily give everybody the same thing, but you give them some options and say, what is it you'd like to use as your incentives? That's a fair thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everyone, just like everyone has different leadership styles, everyone likes to be recognized differently. And of course, you don't want to have too many things going on. So I'm not necessarily saying like everybody just gets whatever, but I do think, having that moment to just simply ask them, take a poll, whatever it is, so that you can really understand, how can I show my employees that I appreciate them? What will work for them? And you'd be surprised. It may be all of the most affordable ways. And so, it may not be any of the other things. And so it really does help to just ask.
Now, we're going to hit this next one. I think this is a tough nut to crack, but it's the short-term employees, and hopefully you've got folks that are, that most, I'd say that most, and we're talking, of course, about generally in the flight school, the CFIs, because we know they're only there for a year and a half most of the time. Most aren't going to, they're going to be moving on to the next step in their aviation career. But I asked you specifically, I was like, Danielle, can you give us some ideas on how we can motivate someone who's not necessarily thinking that I'm going to be with this company for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I'm only going to be here, get my hours, and then move on. And so can you tell us some of the ideas you had about like what can we do to help motivate them?
Sure. So partnerships and relationships is going to be key here. And I know when we were talking about this, I was thinking of along the lines of temporary employees, like if we were to hire a temp or whatever the case may be, those recommendations that they receive from organizations that they work for helps them land the next job. So if you know that this employee may not be here forever, but being able to say, I have this partnership with GE, or, I don't know, or with Lockheed Martin, or I have this connection, this partnership. And so, I definitely would like to help you, build this partnership, and let's, continue to grow this, this relationship or this culture. So being able to show them like there's some benefits here. I know you won't be here forever, but if you're able to establish this career, or if you're able to be here and give it all you have, I can make those connections. I can help you make those connections. And also, just realizing that the aviation community, in itself, we all kind of know each other. So it would behoove you to really, take this opportunity and hit the ground running. But you understand that the good reputation will definitely help, to push you along in your aviation career.
And so I think that's a key thing. And in fact, it's and of course there's both the positive and negative side. We tended towards the positive side here, whereas it's like having those recommendations and you even mentioned the idea of setting up mentorships. Maybe you're obviously having a relationship with an airline that your school can then sort of feed instructors to is
Hmm.
great. Maybe you're unable to do that, but it could also just be you probably know people in aviation, and as you mentioned, setting up those mentorship relationships. Maybe you know someone who is a corporate pilot, or know some people that are airline pilots that are willing to come and mentor, and you're willing to connect those people to them if they do a good job for you, if they're like one of your top employees.
Hmm.
Versus, of course, the implied negative is if you're not willing to help me out and do a good job for me, then you're not going to get these advantages. And of course, you have to probably have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to just discuss that just briefly before we jump to the next one?
Yes, we absolutely are not endorsing a smear campaign if things don't go well, because that's, even in the HR world, that is a no-no. So we definitely don't want to encourage that. However, when you do have a very strong employee, or employee that is doing exceptionally well, you do want to offer the opportunities to pass them, on, like you said, those mentorships, those partnerships, getting them in the room. Sometimes it's as simple as you're going to a banquet and you know that there's going to be some other corporate pilots there, some great connections. Hey, Johnny, how about you come? Or hey, Sam or Sue or whomever, how about you come along with me? Just getting them in the room, that alone will mean a lot to someone. So, whatever little things that you can do to help them build those partnerships beyond, your organization, from the short term, helping them in the long term with those career moves will really be much appreciated.
Exactly. And so and along with that, I guess when I wanted to jump to the next one, along with that is this idea of continuing to empower them and make those relationships is how do we get them to actually, I'm sorry. I know what I wanted to say. Let me go back one. The point I wanted to say here was that all the for your short-term employees, like for your CFIs, this is one thing we thought that might help because it's something that they're going to be probably focused on. But of course, all the other things will too. But building that good culture, providing the incentives and the work-life balance, those things will matter as well. I know for me, when I was a CFI full-time, I was like wholehearted. Like it was 2-3 months of me working 7 days a week, and then slowly that worked itself off because I started getting a little burned out on that and brought it back to just 6 days a week or whatever. But all these things will help by building that culture, make them be proud of the school that they're coming from and where they work, and make it a good place to work. And you'll get the good CFIs because they'll
Hmm.
want to work there knowing that this is a good place while
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
I was going to say
Steven?
something to that. Like once they move on too, they'll meet other people within our small community and say, "Hey, I remember when I worked back at flight school XYZ," and they'll pass on that it was a good experience. So that can drive people to come in and see you for work afterwards too. So it works both ways there. If they have a good time while they're working there, when they move on, they'll talk about it.
Yeah, so it's that long
Great
game, a sense
point.
of knowing that reputation of where people recommend you to go and to go check it and go to work. So the last one before we get into wrapping it up was also empowering the mission, giving the employees this ability to carry out the mission. And when I kind of poised this one out, you I sent it, when I asked you this one, Danielle, you had a specific one, which is this idea of feedback. Can you tell us more about what your thoughts were?
Yes, so feedback in the form of, it can be a suggestion box, it can be open meetings, just an opportunity to really understand or hear what they have to say as far as things that can be done, ways that we can be better. So it's really giving your employees a voice. And I know that that can be, for some, it feels a little dangerous, because when you open Pandora's box, there's so many different things that's going to come in. So you do want to make sure that you do have some sort of follow up, whether it's, Jill, this is a great suggestion. Unfortunately, we may not be able to work that into this year. However, let's look towards, how we can incorporate this in the 3 to 5 year plan. Giving them something, but recognizing I hear you, I appreciate you. Even if this isn't going to work right now, let's see what we can do to be better. So I definitely think, and it can be anonymous or it can just be those one-on-one, again, those touchdown meetings, but more on the one-to-one level, because I do find that people may not want to just kind of group share, but creating that atmosphere where they can share, but then also that follow up and that follow through is important, because sometimes people feel, like they're given suggestions and like this black hole and like, where does it go? At a previous organization, we actually had a little box and they were able to put cards in it. And so one of them, I think, wanted a new sponge for the break room, or like a special wand. And so I was able to purchase it. And I remember them coming in. I was like, oh, cool. So you do look at the box. I'm like, yes, I do look in the box. I actually look in the box. So just again, as an example, that it can work, if you decide to go that direction.
And of course, that key and of course making it reasonable, like you said too. It's like they might ask for, we want a jet. Well, hey guys, we can't do that, but what can we do to help you get to what it is you're looking for? And then Stephen, you mentioned too, there was a good example of, and we don't know exactly how this might necessarily fit directly to flight schools, but I think the concept could fit. So you want to tell us a little bit about what you learned about Flying Dog? It's a brewing company. I guess it's kind of a local Mid-Atlantic thing, but
Yeah, it's a local brewery. I think they've got a really neat culture within their business. So when they let outsiders come in and do tours of the brewery, one of the things they finish up the tour with is their I think the big boardroom. Um, and I want to see it's either once a month or once a quarter, but they get everyone together. Doesn't matter what your job is. You work there, you're part of the meeting, and they allow each person to, if they want, throw an idea for a beer recipe down. And then everyone in the group will vote, and they'll pick like two or three, and they'll brew it. The brewery's got a small tap room attached to the place as part of it. So when you finish the tour, you're back in the tap room. Those beers are available as experimental brews at the tap room for the general public to try. And if it's popular enough, they'll go ahead and adapt it as a regular, like, full core rotation beer that they make full time. So that gives everyone equal voice, no matter what your position is, to suggest something that might become part of the face of the company. So, and
perfect.
they're pretty unique because they have custom artwork they do for each of the beer names too. They got an artist that does this very specific artwork that's very keen to their brand. So it's kind of neat to actually see, like, hey, my idea became this thing. You get a tangible payoff from it.
And that's a great concept. And in fact, I remember it brings back to memory from a session we did with Charles not that long ago on customer service, and he was talking about how they would get together. Remember, he said that there's team meetings to do the same thing. Tell us what we need to do to improve. And so it's a similar idea. So I think you could adapt something like that to your meetings at your school as well. And just like tell us, and maybe there's some award for, like, if you do something that we adopt, then you get some kind of special incentive for that, or something along those lines. So let's wrap up with the kind of the key takeaways today. I know that we if you look, and this is kind of what my thoughts were, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Danielle. But when I was looking this stuff over, I was thinking it seems like making that staff see that big picture, appreciation so key, giving them those opportunities so they can then grow, and then listening to them. Did you want to comment on any of that, or have anything else that came to mind, or what do you think here?
I would say you definitely captured the key takeaways. And again, the big picture is, making the mission visible, all right, and helping them to connect with those stories, having those, I would call them testimonials, if you will, but having those that have come through your flight school. How was it? How did you like it? And that way you can share those stories back with your employees so that they can understand, hey, we're doing great, or, here's how what you've done have benefited others. And again, the appreciation, it can be on a budget, it can be as little or as big, but that recognition is definitely key. Recognition is definitely key to that positive reinforcement, and the opportunities to grow. I mean, who wouldn't want to be better, to do better? So giving them those opportunities, again, big or small, is definitely going to be another great key to changing that culture. And listening to your employees, listening to your CFIs, listening to those folks that are at the front desk. It really does make a difference. And it can just literally be walking to their desk, hey, how's your day? what's going on. And if they do have a suggestion, okay, I like that suggestion. Can you follow through? Can you look up some different ways that we can do that? Have them do the research. I don't, sometimes we may hear a suggestion. It's like, man, how am I going to get that done? And I'm running a whole school. But that's okay to push it back gently and say, you know what, I like this. Can you get some more research? Can you get some more things together? And let's have a meeting and let's talk about it some more. So have them do some of that work to really follow through. But listening to them is definitely important.
And listening to you just comment on all those things too, it seems to me like the unify this whole thing, it's really it seems to be about, it's the relationships that are key. It's taking that time to build these relationships with your employees, because then you can find out what motivates them. You can see how I can help them grow and what can I do for them, and that in itself will then motivate them to want to work for me. I think that's, looking back on it, some of the bosses that I've had too, those are the best ones to work for, the ones that they care about me, and then I will do whatever it is they ask me to do because I know that they care. And
Yeah.
it's like, and they'll help me out. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, cool. I'm hoping there was some good ideas here for you. If you have any ideas of things that you might like to do or have any questions for Danielle, we'll take a moment here and we'll throw those up there. But if you want to throw anything in the chat, if you have any questions for Danielle you'd like to ask, or maybe you've got an idea too of like something that inspired you, or maybe you've got an idea you'd like to share that we didn't talk about, throw it in the chat for us and tell us, what are some things that would be useful for another owner maybe to try, or things that you would like to try at your school to build your work culture. So while I give you a moment just to do that, I will go ahead and just jump ahead here and talk about, we do have, we've been trying to build this connector offline. We'll see how this goes. But if you're interested, send us an email. Maybe Stephen can copy that and put that in the chat for us. We put it in Microsoft Teams, although we may be looking at moving that over to a different platform. But we want to try to provide an opportunity for all of you to connect with each other offline, or online / off the air, I guess is what I mean. And to just be able to ask questions and provide advice to one another. So that's something we'd like to do on our Flight School Connector. Yeah, it was large font there by accident. So barring any questions, if anybody's got any, we'll be glad to take them. But coming up next time, please let us know if you have any topics that you would like us to cover. We do have one that we were asked a while ago, and we finally were able to get somebody here from here at AOPA. We're going to call this next episode the enumeration accumulation. But really what we're going to do is it's accounting. We've got somebody from our accounting department that's willing to come on and talk about some accounting basics in July. So we think that might be interesting. And so I see Steven's typing a question, maybe no, I'm just teasing. So barring any questions, Danielle, I want to thank you very much for being with us. That was I think really helpful and some great information. So I appreciate you taking the time to work with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation. And again, I'm hoping that something that we shared today was beneficial.
Cool. And I guess we will leave it at that. Stephen, do you want to take us away? And again, thank you everybody for coming. We appreciate your time. This has been recorded and it will be online. So if you have anybody you want to share that, we'll put that on AOPA, the AOPA live playlist, Stephen, in what, about 2 days?
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I'll get the comment.
2 to 3 business days typically is what it takes to get everything uploaded and processed. So yeah, it'll be up there in a couple of days.
And just a kind of quick, we got a little chat in here. Lonnie mentions that everyone is motivated by different things. Obviously, that's something that I think is really a key point that he's making. And then ask and personalize. And I totally agree. I think that's a great suggestion, Lonnie. Thank you for that. So I guess barring any other questions, let's go ahead and we will wrap it up and we'll see you next month. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.